is prohibited. Disorderly, unruly, or aggressive behavior that disrupts the good working order of the meeting is also prohibited. Any violation of the above rules for those attending virtually can result in your mic being muted, video feed shut off, or you being dropped from the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Now we will begin with a welcome and introduction to the director and then our panel of park board members. Okay, let's start with the park board members. Let's start with Central Kitsap representatives, please.
Sorry about that. I was muted. Nancy Whitaker.
Thank you, Nancy. Now, North Kitsap.
Linda Berry Murray.
Thank you. And South Kitsap.
Larry Walker, South Kitsap.
Joanne Clark, South Kitsap. Thank you. And now with the director and guests from the staff.
Alex Wisniewski, Kitsap County Parks.
Okay, here we go.
Do we have a quorum?
We do. We have 5 members present.
We'd like to go over the adoption of the minutes from April 19th meeting.
So moved by Larry Walker.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Lisa. Minutes have been adopted and seconded. At this point in the meeting, we're going to accept public comments. Okay, Jim. Hi, Bill.
Muted? No.
We're
Now you can hear
getting
me?
there. There you go, Jim. We got you.
For some reason, I'm up to date on the Zoom, but the video doesn't come on this time, so whatever. But I'd like to update you on Harper Park and the Harper Estuary restoration process. Yesterday, our Governor Inslee signed the capital budget bill, which included approval of the Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board funds, in which the Harper Estuary, which is in the center of Harper Park, advance for funding. And we are lined up to receive $4,964,111 from the Brian Abbott Fish Barrier Removal Board. Kitsap County matches with $876,020, and Senator Emily Randall contributed $100,000. So if you add all that up, it's just slightly under $6 million to finish our project of restoring the estuary and removing the large culvert that goes under Olympia Drive. And on a side note, I was down at the estuary this morning and the park like I usually am, and I ran into 3 engineers from the OTAC company who did the original design of the bridge and took over from Fish and Wildlife after phase 1 was done. And they have currently the new design for the bridge, and finishing the restoration is somewhere between 90 and 95% completed. And they were putting out flags this morning in the estuary area to mark out the area that the county has to get a lease to lease the land from DNR for do the work and place the bridge. And an interesting thing, when I left off phase 1 6 years ago, or it was 2016, since phase 1 finished, phase 1 suggested having public entrance to the beach on the southwest corner of the new bridge project, which nobody in our neighborhood liked. And so talking to the engineers this morning, the engineers didn't even like it. So they're suggesting having public access on the north side of the road, which is good. And so I'm happy as we advance on the Kitsap County Public Works Transportation Improvement Program, their TIP programs. They have the actual construction of the new bridge in the year 2025, but I've seen things change before out here. So it could be earlier, it could be later. One other thing that I'd like to put a placeholder on, I guess, for lack of a better word, the beach barrier logs that we have had the park place out there several years back to keep people from driving on the beach. I think I see a reuse of those at Harper Park and the estuary, depending upon how this 100% of the design ends up and is approved by the county. And so I just like to put a tag on those that possibly we could reuse those beach barrier logs, for what it's worth. So anyway, just wanted to update you on progress we're making out here. And also I'd like to welcome our new parks volunteer, the natural resource coordinator, Victoria Leto. I took her on a tour of the park and we wrote a list of things that could be done at various work parties and so forth. Nothing major, just little tiny stuff, but they all add up. And this morning when I was down there, the county maintenance people were down there doing a super job of mowing the grass and weed eating and keeping the park up nice. So I just want to again thank those who are keeping the park really nice. So that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, for all your hard work and diligence for all these years of your persistence.
I'm not going away. Might carry me away, but not on my watch.
Okay, is there anyone else online that would like to make a comment? Seeing none online, we're going to move to our audience that's in person. Is there anyone in-house that would like to make a comment? No. Okay, not today. Thank you. Moving right along, we have some special presentation reports on the capital improvement plan. This is for Alex.
Thank you. Before we jump into the proposed capital improvement plan changes, because the current capital improvement plan that we have underway was originally approved in November of 2022. And in your packets, and what I will be walking us through and talking about this evening are changes to the plan. But before getting into that, I'd like to introduce Victoria Leto, who is online with us. As mentioned just briefly earlier, she was recently hired, maybe a month ago, into the Natural Resources Coordinator vacant position. And Victoria, if you are so inclined, it would be fantastic for you to maybe say a few words about your background, and, well, just about your background and maybe your first month with, Kitsap County Parks.
Yeah, hi everybody. My video is not working oddly enough, but I'm Victoria Leto. I have been here for about a month now at the end of this week. And a little bit about my background. I got a bachelor's degree through Western Washington University's Huxley College of the Environment in environmental science. I went on to get a wetland certification so I can work in wetlands and kind of know what I'm looking at and how we can do things in them. I did a stint for a year with Pierce County Parks, building trail and working with the public in very similar work to what I'm doing now. And that was in AmeriCorps as a service member. And then most recently, I worked with Kitsap Public Health District doing water quality information and protection. So so this is an excellent opportunity for me. I get to get back out there in the field and work with people again and work with plants. That's kind of one of the big things that excites me is I'm a bit of a plant nerd. So the last month here has been exciting and I've got to meet quite a few people. Thanks, Jim, for the shout out. Yeah, I really like Harper. I'm excited that that bill or that project was signed off. So lots to learn, and I look forward to working with everybody.
Welcome.
Thanks, Victoria. I am going to share my screen and then begin walking us through the proposed changes to our current capital improvement plan. And I reference this as proposed because there is still a process before us in order to get this finalized and executed by the Board of County Commissioners. So back in November of 2022, that is the general annual time frame when all of the departments within the county are required to have their capital improvement plan. It's a 6-year projected plan prepared, shared with the public. There is a public hearing opportunity to receive comments based on that plan before it has its final review and adoption by the commissioners. Since County Parks is proposing a change to its current plan, we will have to go back through that public hearing and that comment period. So we still have a few steps before us before moving this on to a level of finalization. But wanted to take an opportunity and walk you through this. In past meetings, in my report, as well as in some of my announcements, I've talked about this update to the CIP that was coming in 2 different phases. And we talked about phase 1 as really focusing in on the year 2023. And making some changes to the CIP to right size the projects that are scheduled for 2023 and really honing in on what we're able to accomplish this year, making sure that is recognized in the CIP. And then phase 2 is basically doing a deeper dive, a bigger evaluation of the program that looks at the rest of the plan projecting out 6 years, and the time frame for that phase 2 update will really be in line with the end of the calendar year and when we bring forth the next 6-year strategic CIP plan for its normal review and approval process. But here we are mid-year. What I shared with you in the packet is really focused on the changes that we need to make for 2023. What you have in your packet are a few different amendments, attachments. Attachment A is really, and I'm definitely, you're not going to listen to me read through this word for word, but is the narrative that goes along with explaining really what is laid out in the attachment B and the spreadsheet here. And this is really where I'm going to focus my attention and try and capture your visual attentiveness here. The proposed changes are focused on four primary needs. One is adding in projects that were currently not included in the approved CIP from November of 2022. Most notably, of these projects that are being added at this mid-year adjustment that were not included are the needed beach rehabilitation project at Point No Point. If you recall, in November of 2022 and then in December of 22, the park and the beachfront received impacts from high king tides in both of those months, with really the December king tides creating kind of a devastation to the beach, to the property. If you recall, it was not only king's tides, but it was king tides that were elevated with low barometric pressure, which caused the water to bubble up. With high wind waves, which really created movement of the water, and then adding in rain. It was a combination that I don't wish to repeat. But the impacts to not only Point No Point Park, but also all along the North Beach there was overtopping of water. We also had it on the eastern beach of the park. And it, caused flooding in the community. And we really found or experienced the devastation to the property when that water was receding at low tide periods back into the Puget Sound. When the low tides occurred, the low spot in the ground up there is through the park. And so that is where the water that was at least above the road there receded back through the park and really pulled the beach berm and the sand out into the sound as the water, basically went downhill and went into the sound. So we have some pretty severe damage to the beach that we are currently working on as a capital project. But because that is not currently in or was an unforeseen kind of response to an emergency situation, was not included in our CIP, so we need to add it in so we can better align the project with the appropriate funding source. Currently, we are funding the project because we certainly have not stopped responding to it. We're paying for it out of our general fund, general operating budget. And what we'll need to do is get this approved as a capital project. Then we'll be able to migrate those expenses over to the capital budget and backfill our operating budget to basically right size the department with operating funds. So an example of one of the projects that was unforeseen needs to be added and one of the elements of the proposed CIP. Because of these added projects such as Point No Point, it also creates a situation in which we have a very small team, small staff who are working on our capital projects. And so it creates a need to better balance out how many projects we can actually promise to the public that we can accomplish, which means that some of our projects need to be postponed to a future year. So there are, of the four elements, we have adding new projects, we have postponing projects, Then we get into the dollars and cents, and we have some projects that were previously programmed on our CIP that did not have the appropriate project budget programmed. And we need to adjust that, and in all cases, adjust those project budgets upwards. We need to add dollars to them because the original project budget that was foreseen in the past is not enough to accomplish what we are finding are today's actual costs. And just a reminder on this one, the capital improvement plan that we have moved forward over the last 3 years in a row has really been relatively stagnant. It has been the same CIP, the same projects, the same dollar amounts associated, moving forward 1 year after the other. And this is at nobody's particular fault. In 2019, the department lost its staff member who was focused on carrying out capital projects. In 2020, the department lost its parks planner, who is providing also capital project oversight. And then we went into impacts from COVID. The positions were vacant, they were frozen, and we did not have any staff members to move forward any of these projects. And in all honesty, in 2020, nobody's focus was on capital projects anyway. It was on impacts from COVID and just how do we function and move forward. However, in 2022, we refilled both of those positions. We hired Aaron Nix as our parks planner in August of 22. And in November of 22, we welcomed Matt Oxford into the capital projects position to really take on this program and facilitate the projects moving forward. Unfortunately, you'll recall that Matt resigned in March of 23. So for another position. And we basically have lost some capacity to one, finalize the phase 1 and the phase 2 analysis of our CIP, and really strained staffing capacities to carry out the projects that were already in motion. Very thankfully, and a huge credit to Aaron Nix, in addition to his planning efforts with primarily with the PROS plan, as well as the Culture Creek framework. He is also helping facilitate the capital projects that are in motion, that we really have no opportunity to stop. And obviously No Point is certainly one of those. That is one that just can't stop. It needs to move forward. So we have, the whole point of that was to say that we have old dollars and cents associated with the project budgets from a few years ago that has not been changed. We are now in a position where some of these projects are coming up to speed. We are getting estimates. We are contracting these out. We are getting engineer estimates for some of the projects, and we actually have real project budgets to update our CIP with. So that is the third component of the basis of this update. And the fourth one is the funding sources. And so we have some of the projects, really those that are located at the Fairgrounds and Event Center that require a specific funding source. So let me explain that a little bit more. The primary funding tool for our capital projects, our capital program, all of our capital projects that happen in our park system is REIT 2. And so REIT 2, that's real estate excise tax. There is a REIT 1 and a REIT 2 as they are defined in code. Each of these different categories have different definitions. Within these definitions, there are differences in what the funds are allowed to be spent on. And if the definition, our facility does not fall within the confines of that definition, we are unable to use that funding source for that facility. And so REIT 2 has some restrictions on its use for recreation facilities. And so the Fairgrounds and Events Center is mostly referred to not as a park, but as recreational facilities. And so because of that differentiation in how we define the facilities here, REIT 2 is not a viable funding source for the grounds here, where we are, at least those of us in person, are sitting. This means we need to identify a different funding source to help facilitate capital projects on the fairgrounds. And of course, this is of the utmost importance, given that the Fairgrounds and Event Center is our most developed property, has the most buildings, and has really a lot of aging facilities too that are going to need capital investment in the future. So we are beginning to have this conversation with the commissioners, making them aware of the challenges with REIT 2 at the fairgrounds, and looking for alternative solutions on how we move some of these projects forward. So that is the fourth element, really funding sources that we're looking to, or we are proposing as a change to the CIP. Before I jump into specific details, and I do intend to kind of walk through what is presented here, the various highlighted projects and what's being proposed. Just based on that kind of broad introduction, are there any questions or comments before I move forward? And of course, there'll be comments, and please ask questions throughout this as well.
Alex, I had a question. This is Linda. I
ahead,
was
Linda.
wondering on the point, no point, was there any possibility to get an insurance claim on that catastrophic damage? And the other question, I was a little surprised, and this has more to do with the funding sources, but I know that the Eagle's Nest was built not through Parks funds, but it was I think it was general fund money. And these kind of repairs on a 30-year-old building, it seems surprising to me that those would be like park impact fees instead of county general fund money for what's really building maintenance.
Good comments, good questions. First, starting with the insurance question at point, no points. The county is self-insured. And so we don't have a third-party insurance vendor to lay a claim to. The county actually does carry some insurance, but this, as it's been reviewed by risk management, either it does not qualify, does not fall within those dollar descriptions or whatever, but we do have funding sources available for it. We just need to align the project with those funding sources, and that is what we're attempting to do with the CIP update here. With regards to the Eagle's Nest, it is a good item not only to identify the different funding sources that have gone into the fairgrounds, because there's also been public facilities district funds that have been invested in the fairgrounds here, the pavilion, the Lobie baseball field complex, Gordon Field, and so the county has leaned on alternative funding in the past. And we will continue to do so as we align our future capital projects with those outside funding sources, as well as grant opportunities. We are always looking to leverage the public dollars that we get from the Kitsap County community with alternative funding sources via grants, via donations, via other organizations to partner with, so we can amplify the impact for the community from the tax dollars that we get for our various projects. Any other comments, questions? All right, I am going to begin to walk us through the proposed changes. And if you have comments or questions as we're going along, please feel free to raise your hand or to simply shout out and interrupt me so that we can address it in the appropriate time. So the first three items on the graph in front of you, as well as this would be page 16 in your packet that we are proposing. And again, this is focused on 2023 projects. We had a restroom installation at Illahee Forest Preserve Heritage Park, as well as parking lot improvements and a restroom installation at North Kitsap Heritage Park that we are proposing to postpone to 2024. And so that is basically a project that has not, those projects have not moved forward. And to date, in large parts because of impacts at Point No Point. Had the events at Point No Point not happened, we would have had staff attention and energy directed in different ways. And these projects likely would have been able to move forward. But because of the loss of Matt Oxford, because of the impacts from Point No Point, this is part of an effort to rebalance the amount of projects that we are trying to accomplish in 2023. This by no means is any indication that these projects will not get done. In reality, the Parks Department already owns these restroom facilities. They were purchased in 2016 as kits. And they need to be, of course, permitted, but they simply need to be hired out to a contractor to plumb them in and to erect them in place at the various locations that they are intended to go. We just are simply at a place where we're not going to be able to accomplish them in 2023 with everything else that I'm going to talk about before you. Moving on down the list. And I'm primarily going to be focused on the highlighted items on here because those represent the changes to the CIP. But by all means, if there's a question about one of the other projects on here, feel free to ask that question as well. So the next two projects on the list are at the next three really are located at the fairgrounds and event center. We have the Eagle's Nest deck replacement. We have the Eagle's Nest HVAC unit replacement, and we have the deconstruction, the demolition of an old cabin facility that is on site at the fairgrounds that currently sits on pier blocks behind the President's Hall, almost smack dab in the middle of the fairgrounds proper. The first two items on here, the Eagle's Nest deck, this is, and so for those who are unaware, the building that we are sitting in and hosting this meeting in is called the Eagle's Nest. The top floor of the building is an open meeting and event location. The bottom floor is where the parks offices are located. They are connected into one building. This was formerly a commercial kitchen and a restaurant operation, which is really interesting. But that's not how it functions today. But out back behind me, out our required secondary emergency egress points from this kind of commercially used facility required by code is our the deck on the back of the Eagle's Nest that connects into a ramp that connects into the driveway and basically the strong surface of the ground. We are required to have 2 access points for emergency exits. We have the front doors, we have the back doors. The only way to utilize this facility for what we're currently using it for is by use of that deck. However, the deck is the original when the building was constructed near 30 years ago. And it is in need of replacement. It is a wooden deck and it is simply outlived its useful life. It is still safe for us to utilize as an emergency exit, but it is no longer safe for us to have large gatherings on it and have it as a functional outdoor space as a component of how this facility could be used. So Lisa.
What's the footprint of the deck? Like, how big is it?
Square footage?
Yeah. 18, does it have to be that big?
Do you want to?
I think for the purposes of what it was intended, yes, just because we're not utilizing it, and I think it's a big draw using this facility here. So it's also the primary egress secondary, so it has to be.
But 1,800 square feet is huge.
It is big.
It's big.
I agree. I don't disagree.
So what would it be used for? And is it, I mean, like parties or?
Go ahead. I'll defer to events, but yes.
Oh,
I'll defer to events.
okay.
So the meeting will be there is a right place and it's turned it out on that means corporate events for everybody. So that it's not to be able to look at how 100. So we have also provide.
That's the other issue.
So has
Having
anyone
trouble
ever
hearing.
What?
Having trouble hearing her.
Oh. Okay. I was curious, has anyone thought about how long it would take to recoup that from the rental, the amount of money you get in rental income?
We've not done that calculation. Yeah, I don't have that number for you.
I'm just curious, if I built a deck that big and, you know, it made so much money, I'd definitely figure that out. Like, how long would it take me to recoup that? Or would I ever recoup that in the cost of wedding? I mean, maybe you would, because weddings get a lot of money, right?
They can't, I mean, we have a rental rate based on the facility, not necessarily based on the type of event. So whether it's a birthday party, a meeting or a wedding, the rental cost is all the same. One thing to to balance out here, there's a couple things at play. One is funding sources, and we are not in a position where we are, required or mandated by the commissioners to recoup the money that we expend on capital projects or on general park maintenance or park improvement projects. We're also not identified in a position to recoup a certain amount of cost recovery for our event rental program. So it is, and it does not recoup 100% of its expenses. In all likelihood, if we attempted to do that, nobody would be able to rent any of our buildings. And so there is kind of an offset of, benefit for the greater good of the community to have access to the facilities and, pay into them, of course, but not be so weighted down with costs that it becomes untenable for someone to utilize them. The other portion of this is that, and I'll get into this when I talk about funding sources a little bit, but the department has been granted by the commissioners, and this was a long time ago when this was put into place, But I give a ton of credit to past parks staff as well as the commissioners to agree to do this, because I've never had this in anywhere that I've worked. But the ability to retain a portion of the revenue that the program generates. And so while this isn't applicable to all of the facilities that we rent out to the community, the pavilion, the P Hall, the Van Z, our community buildings, we are able to reserve 20% of the revenues that we utilize for that program stays with the department. And we're able to carry those dollars over year to year so that we can build up a budget that we can then reinvest in those facilities to continue to maintain, to help offset the cost of aging facilities.
So that's kind of where my question was coming from, how to make more money from the parks, but you know, like the bike rides out at Fort Gamble Heritage Park. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of people that, you know, how much money does the park get for those events? Because people that are walkers, dog walkers, horseback riders, they can't use the park on those days. So it's basically a biking mecca for those days. So I think that the income, I mean, it should generate a, you know, proportional amount of income for those days, because it is putting a lot of the public that pays for those parks out of the park for that whole day or those days. So.
Correct, kind of. It also provides a different type of opportunity for the public to participate in different types of events, festivals, concerts. We have concerts at Silverdale Waterfront Park. We have free events that happen here. So there's opportunity, in those events that draw people to there to utilize that park in a different way, to meet your neighbors, create community. And so there's, I totally hear what you're saying. I don't want to get our conversation about these specific capital projects kind of derailed by the park events. We fully recognize and have had a lot of conversations that we need to put some effort to updating our policies and our fee schedule when it comes to how we manage events that happen in our parks. And really specifically at Fort Gamble, because since the county acquired that in 2014, and then a few years later for different parcels of it, the number of events and the attention that has drawn has increased, and we have more events there than we have at other parks as well. And it's really we're a little bit behind on getting ourselves updated and able to manage those in a better position. So that's something that will be also part of the pros plan update and some goals and objectives that come out of that.
So with the weddings that are here, that's kind of what I was thinking. My neighbor has a wedding venue, and I'm wondering if it's a comparable schedule, since everything's, you could just take the wedding part out, because people pay a lot of money for weddings, and, kind of get up to date with that schedule, like just weddings cost more. So I don't know. I'm just saying, because just ways to make more money for the parks. So because we're always out of money, it seems, and do things. So
unfortunately, we're pretty low on the funding total pool, generally speaking.
But there's ways to create revenue by, just certain things. So that's just, getting up to date with that just seems logical. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't know relay your conversation.
Totally fine, Lisa. I appreciate your comments. Yeah.
Alex, I know Nancy said she also didn't hear the answer to one of the questions that Lisa asked, which was, is it possible that 1,800 square foot deck, since it's primarily required as a second point of egress for the upstairs, is it possible to reduce the size and therefore reduce the cost of that deck and just deal with the exiting requirements? I know I didn't hear the answer to that question.
Yeah, I'll try and paraphrase, unless Alex, you want to tackle it again? Okay. Yeah, there's the there's a couple different, there's always a couple different things. I'd say first and foremost, you know, there is the emergency exit component. There is not only the replacement kind of almost in kind in terms of its footprint, but there is bringing it up to ADA standards that has to happen. It currently does not meet today's ADA standards. It was built prior to the code requirements of today. And so there's some improvements that need to take place that are, you know, more costly than just an outright replacing the deck or something. The other part is that it's an attraction for people to utilize the facility as a rental venue as well. And it's one that we do not have available to us currently, but has been used historically, and one that we have unfortunately had to have off limits for users. You know, could we potentially, you know, slim it down to just an emergency exit? Possibly, but I don't think that the desire is there because of how it adds to the facility here.
Just quickly, I just wanted to add, there's another cost that we have not discussed that is really huge, and that's the fire line associated with underneath the deck. That's probably half the cost just to replace it. If you look at the system itself, go down there and take a look. It's rusted. It's got to get replaced. I mean, we could, I think at some point we could think about the notion of shrinking it down, but if you go out and walk it, which you can, because we've marked it, most of it is actually to get around the entire building to exit over there. So a lot of that square footage is, and you'll see there's a bridge and everything else to get you over there. So that's a tough one. I mean, it is. I agree. I think it's an amenity that we've not utilized. And you were going to say something about that thing.
Yeah, I was just going to add on, because the space is used for commercial use, that has to go to the codes for commercial use. It's not a residential deck, which then requires a lot of footprint. So that's, you know, we have 100% capacity in the building. The deck has to be able to accommodate that as well. And then again, just to reiterate, this building gets rented out 5+ days for everything from school parties, weddings, birthday parties. There are a lot of members of the community coming here, so it is a well-used facility, probably one of our most popular facilities.
Great. Thank you. So with that, the Eagles Nest deck project, we had it on the approved 2022 to, or sorry, 23 to 28 CIP plan. We had $100,000 earmarked for this project. Based on, we have now had engineering plans done. We have an engineering estimate, and we are moving forward into structural permits. The cost associated with this is expensive. We are looking at project budget of $275,000, well over our $100,000 original estimate. And that's, you know, not only captures, you know, the replacement of the decking, it's basically a removal and a rebuild, a redo of the ramp to bring it to ADA standards, and a removal and a reconstruction of the fire suppression system that we are required to have that sits underneath the building, or underneath the deck rather. Yes. Yes, includes all of that together.
The other thing that it does include is a contingency. So what people need to understand is this is an estimate. The reality is when we go to bid, it could be a lot less, or it could be a little bit more. So this number has a contingency, 20%, 30%, I can't remember. So that's why it's elevated.
Okay, next project on the list is the Eagles Nest HVAC. And for those of us sitting in the room here, yes, exactly, Lisa. Our HVAC in the building here, both downstairs and upstairs, does not function. And so the way this, basically, the HVAC unit, it needs to be replaced. There are two split HVAC units that provide heat and provide air conditioning in the building. You will definitely notice air conditioning is not working and has not worked for a number of years. There is one split unit that functions for the upstairs floor, and there is a different unit that functions for the bottom floor. The upstairs and the downstairs are not connected by any type of interior stairway. They're two completely separate units, and they are controlled and function as such as well. The replacement of these, and by split units, there is a part of it that sits outside on the ground, and then there is part of it that sits inside the building, and that is the air handling unit that pushes the air through the duct system interior to the building. That needs to be replaced as well. So it's the two units outside plus the interior unit. In order to do the interior unit, they need to take apart a wall. They need to dismantle a wall so they can remove the current system and install another air handling system. So wrap all of that into a project, and we are looking at a cost of $362,250. This also contains a contingency on top of the estimate that we received from through the Sourcewell contract. So Sourcewell is a purchasing cooperative agreement that the county has access to that basically gives us opportunities or access to specific vendors and locks in prices. It's a way to thank you.
And make it easier to purchase something.
Sorry, guys. It's so they negotiate the best price with the vendors, and they've made it legal for us to do this. So we're basically a consortium with a bunch of different governments that allows us to get the lowest price possible. Based on the work and what I've seen, we're probably getting, based on what I'm seeing, because there's a lot, the TI, the tenant improvement needs to happen. We're probably getting $500,000 worth of work for, I know it's a lot of money for 360 or whatever. So we are getting the best price. It's just, my God, is it really that expensive anymore? I mean, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And this project was earmarked and had $50,000 associated with it that was originally put on the CIP list in 2017. So, you know, this project has been known that it has been needed to be done for quite a while. But in going, you know, now 6 years here, the HVAC has not yet been replaced. So this is one that we desperately need to move forward. This is another one that we have this, you know, really amazing rental facility here. And in the summer, when that sun is beating down, it is blazing hot in here. It is, our windows don't open in the building. We can't create a draft in here. And so having a functioning air conditioning and HVAC system is paramount. The third fairgrounds project is the cabin that I mentioned. And for those who have been on site or walked around at the county fair, you may have noticed a building, a log cabin building that doesn't really match any of the other buildings on site here. And digging through the history of this building was, in all honesty, rather interesting. It was an ammunition depot for the Navy. It's located in the city of Bremerton originally. At some point, Between when it was constructed and the 1990s, it was relocated to Silverdale Waterfront Park, where it was utilized as a food bank type distribution center to the community. And from what I could tell from past newspaper articles, in the early 90s, there was a desire to expand the footprint of Silverdale Waterfront Park. And there was talk of removing the cabin. The cabin it was a cabin and stables that matched the same type of log cabin style construction. Both facilities were relocated to the fairgrounds in the 90s at some point. And they were originally located up near the playground in the parking lot there. At some points in the early 2000s, the County Parks Department put out a general ad to the community that basically said, free cabin, come talk to us if you want to haul it off site. And they did not get any takers. At the same time, they also had a structural analysis done on both of the facilities, the stables and the cabin. Both facilities were deemed to be structurally unsound. The stables were in much greater state of disrepair than the cabin, but the cabin was deemed uninhabitable and not viable for replacing the logs that were rotten and falling apart because of the way that log cabins are constructed with the interlocking logs. In order to replace those that needed it, you would literally have to take all the walls apart and then basically rebuild it. It was just untenable, unviable to invest in it. But there was still a strong kind of community desire to retain it for its historic value. In the early 2000s, it was moved over to where it currently lives today. It does not sit on a solid foundation. It sits on pier blocks. There was in 2007, if I remember correctly, and I probably don't have the years accurate, but in the 2000s, there was two different partnerships that were developed between County Parks Department and two different organizations in the community. The intent was to have those organizations do fundraising efforts to invest back into the facility and fix it up. One was the Pacific Northwest Photographic Society, and the other one was a historic log cabin society. I don't know if I have the names completely accurate, but something to that effect. Both of those proved not to raise any money or invest in the facility, and neither of those organizations exist today. They're defunct, so they're not available to contact. So here we are, 20 years later since it's been relocated to its current site. The old stables were never relocated from the playground from the parking lot at the playground. They were simply dismantled and removed from the site. And the state of the cabin is the same as it was in the 90s when the structural analysis was done. That was found that it was unsound. And so we are currently kind of pursuing a deconstruction or a demolition of that building. Lisa.
Have you ever considered contacting the fire department and have a practice burn? I'm serious, it's free.
We did this, had the same conversation with the commissioners this morning, and the exact same comment came up. It was really great. And in a prior life, when I worked in Flagstaff, we actually did that. We acquired a parcel that had a house on it. The house was falling apart. It didn't hold any value to us. We got it because we wanted the property for the sake of protecting a wetland area. And so partnered with the fire department districts. They came in and they did a full-on burn and did trainings there. And it was really cool. They don't have those type of opportunities very often. We have talked about those. There's some challenges with, I would be hesitant to do that on the fairgrounds, given the amount of activity and the events that we have here, and its proximity to other buildings. Kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit to light it on fire. We do have some other buildings that, you know, might be, you would think might be more viable to it. You'll see the other demo buildings on here. There's an old house at Nick's Lagoon, but it is actually a cinder block structure. So, you know, some of it will burn, some of it's just going to stay the way it is. There is an old kind of beachside cabin and bulkhead at Guillemot Cove. Not really in a location that and it's really tiny. I don't think that it would be viable for it. It's potentially the house at Long Lake Park, just because it's kind of isolated from the park a little bit, separated. But we've not had the conversation with the fire department. Yeah, raise some money for the parks, right? So good comment. So these three projects are the ones at the fairgrounds, also the ones that are the three that are identified for the need of alternative funding sources. In our initial draft of the proposed CIP, park staff is proposing use of REIT 1 funds. So we know REIT 2 is off limits to us, but REIT 1 has a broader definition as it applies to parks and recreation facilities, and it would accommodate the spending at the fairgrounds and event center. We have other funding sources on there as well. In our conversations with the commissioners this morning, we walked through each of these four on here. The REIT 1 funds, the county has primarily been earmarking for capital improvements to the county courthouse campus in Port Orchard. And so really kind of reserving that fund balance for that future expenditure. So there's, I wouldn't say reluctance to spend it there, but just always looking for alternative ways before defaulting to utilizing REIT 1, because they are trying to target a different project for it, but they have spent it on other things in the past. Park impact fees were put on there. Since putting it on there, we have engaged with our legal counsel to take a look at what those park impact fees can be used for. What we kind of briefly chatted about this morning is that they may not be available for use on existing facilities to do repair and replacement, basically the type of activities that we're talking about, a deck replacement, an HVAC, basically capital maintenance to an existing facility. That park impact fees are mostly there for new facilities, new land acquisition, new development. For really, it's intended to balance off those monies coming in from new housing development. So the county gets a portion of that, those funds, and a portion of those, because we have enacted a resolution for park impact fees based on the RCWs that the state allows, we're able to collect some of those funds and reserve them for later use. To date, our park impact fees are primarily used to pay off debt services on bonds that the department has utilized in the past for land acquisition, expansion of the parks system, and other projects. That bond is not due to expire until 2031, I believe was the most updated information I received. So while we do have park impact fees on here, not really viable for these specific projects, but a funding source that we are investigating and will look to utilize in the future for an appropriate project that does match its need and purpose. We also have special revenue on here. This kind of harkens back to the comment I made earlier that the Parks Department has the opportunity to reserve that 20% of our facility rentals it does not go into the county's general fund, but it stays within the department, and we're able to roll those dollars over year after year to build up a balance. In addition to that 20%, we also have lease contracts. We have revenue contracts that bring in funds to the Parks Department. We have, as examples of what those are, we have 2 cell towers on the fairgrounds. Those bring in funds annually that stay reserved within this account and for the Parks Department use only. We have contracts with other operators such as the Lighthouse Society up at Point No Point. We have the preschool co-op that rents the Cola Cole building in Kingston. Those both bring in revenue to the department that gets reserved into this fund along with the 20%. And while it does have a balance that could accommodate the expense of these projects, if we were to solely rely on that for these, it would be cut more than in half. We would be utilizing a huge chunk of it. And so we are reluctant to offer that as our chosen opportunity, but for the sake of, full transparency, it is a funding source that is available that could be used. And the last item on there is identified as GF, and that's basically just the county's general fund tax base. That is how the department operations are funded. And the county could decide, the commissioners could decide that that is how they intend to fund these projects, that they're not going to touch these kind of other special purpose accounts. And that actually sparked a really interesting conversation with the commissioners this morning about potentially seeding a reserve account set aside for capital projects for parks, and likely specific for the fairgrounds, because the REIT 2 fund that we utilize throughout the rest of the park system is not applicable here. So there is some more investigation that we're doing with the county budget and finance team and the commissioners. But it was a very positive conversation and an understanding of the challenge that we have here at the fairgrounds. So no specific answers coming out of that at this point, but certainly a recognition that something needs to be done. And we're looking to figure out what that might look like. Please, Lisa.
One more question. So the Core Avenue property divestiture that we were talking about last month, is there another, I know people donate properties all the time. Is there another small parcel that could be sold maybe to raise the money to fund these improvements? Because, sometimes those properties maybe aren't valuable as a park property. Another way to raise money.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting idea. One I fully admit we've not explored in the context of this, but it certainly could be looked at for, I would say, kind of the future of the CIP program, to say, hey, we need to kind of evaluate how many park properties we have in our system, which ones meet the goals and the needs of what we are trying to grow up to be, and which ones kind of fall off that list. And, are there other ways to either divest ourselves of those through sales, or other ways that, transfer them to other cities or other agencies to maintain. That doesn't really bring in the revenue part of it, but the sales does, and that's an interesting idea. For the sake of these specific projects and the time frame, I don't think that it's an option for us here, but I do like the thought process for looking at it for future.
My thought was just if people donate the property, I had an issue last month about, you know, if someone's donating it to the parks, maybe it should stay in the parks, but if they donate it to the parks to help the parks, to help improve the parks, and if that's what this would be doing, it just makes sense. So that's just my thought.
Thank you for that.
I have a quick question about the ones that aren't highlighted,
Okay.
specifically Anderson Point Park.
That one is, if you'll recall, I'm going to pull on your memory strings here a little bit. The presentation that we did at the end of last year, as well as the year before, those two CIP updates, we identified a few projects that were previously approved and funded dating back to 2016, but were incomplete. They've not been finished. The expansion of the Anderson Point parking lot, as well as the Romtech restroom installations at I think 4 different park locations, make up those remaining projects that have not been complete. We very much want to complete those because we are now, 7 years later, and we have not met the obligation to the community that we intended to 7 years ago. So for the sake of that, this one, and based on internal conversation with the staff, seem like low-hanging fruit that we can move forward and accomplish this this year in 2023. So, yes.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions before moving on to the last 2 items? There was a lot kind of packed into the fairgrounds items, adding new projects, different funding sources, increasing costs. I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm gonna keep jumping ahead. So prior to Matt Oxford's departure and his resignation in March of earlier this year of 23, Matt was moving forward the demo projects that we had on our list. We currently have 5 structures across our park system that are not in use, and they are in various states of disrepair and dysfunction. And he put in his 4 months here, among other things he did, he submitted demolition permits for 4 of the 5 projects. The one that was withheld from the process was the cabin and the bulkhead at Guillemot Cove. The reason for this is it's a little bit more, while it is a smaller structure, it's a little bit more complicated based on its location and the access to it for a contractor, equipment. It may have to be approached via a barge on the water as opposed to on the land. So there's more that needs to kind of looking into there before we're ready to move that project forward. So that one, because we did not have a demo permit completed for it, it made sense to postpone that one as well, especially in light of losing Matt. It was, again, an effort to let's focus on the projects that are already moving forward, add in point, no points, and kind of, that's about the best we're going to be able to do given staffing levels. And then, of course, the last item on here, I touched on earlier, and that is the Point No Point Park rehabilitation project. The item of note here is that this project is has three distinct different phases to it. We are looking to carry out phase 1 and 2 in 2023, and there's a phase 3 component that would land in 2024. This obviously just reflects 23. It is looking at a very expensive project in the park that rehabilitates the North Beach and some undermining of one of the parking lot areas, reconstruction of a parking lot area that has fallen into disrepair from the impact from the storm. And then phase 2 is a reconstruction of the rock revetment wall that is in front of on the north side of the historic lighthouse. All of this is at its final stages of design development, and the preliminary permit review has already begun. If you have specific questions on this project, Aaron is our in-house expert.
It says just reconstruction. So are you just reconstructing what was already there? Because it seems like we're gonna have another king tide this winter and the next winter and.
No, it is not. What we're trying to do, and our hope is that we're gonna actually have a presentation here next month for the community as well, because they need to know what's going on. Ideally, what we're going to do is we're gonna fill in the areas that were eroded due to the flow of water that left. We're gonna fill that hole. We're also gonna build a secondary berm. So we'll build that up a little bit, and then behind the berm, we're actually going to put, behind that fill area, we're gonna put basically a secondary berm to serve as a secondary backup. Then we're gonna plant the heck out of it, with trees and vegetation, and we're gonna keep people on specific trails. That's the biggest issue there. Because it is so sandy, we got to have vegetation grabbing onto it. So we're going to be taking those kinds of steps. That barrier, that second barrier, will serve as a secondary protection from future events that occur. As we started investigating this, as you guys, if you've been out there, you know where the parking lot area is. If you continue on around the point, there's a rock revetment that was actually built in 1900. Out there a long time ago. The rocks have eroded and left. What we need to do is we need to basically take them all out and reconstruct them to put a revetment. Part of the problem, and this is where it gets complicated, you guys, and that's why we kind of stress from the get-go, it is going to be a stretch for us to get this done this year. Is all of the stuff that goes with it. In order for us to reconstruct that revetment, under federal law now, you have to basically mitigate for those impacts. It's already been impacted, but if we're going to put a revetment back in again, we have to mitigate for that. Our intent is we're trying to tie this all into one package so that all the soil and sand that we're bringing in, building that secondary berm, that's all habitat. Our hope is that compensation will allow us to do the revetment work, which will happen in 2024. That's the bigger picture things that we have to think about, that because mitigation is so freaking expensive. I mean, and then you're monitoring it for another 10 years, that kind of stuff. So that's really what we're trying to kill, a couple birds with one stone, but we're also trying to get out there as fast as we can so that we don't have this problem again, is the intent. So that's kind of in the gist is the project. We're probably, and this is an estimate, we're probably looking at $1 million when we're all said and done. This project, yeah.
So the last item I wanted to share with you was that spreadsheet that we just walked through was really a putting blinders on and hyper focused on 2023. And that was intentional. That was our proposed approach to the update of the CIP. Phase one focused on let's make the edits and the changes that we need for 2023. Phase two will be basically the rest of the plan and will come at the end of the year as a part of the normal CIP cycle. In the meantime, though, I wanted to share how those projects and what we're proposing kind of lays out across the current 6-year CIP. And so you'll see that on the screen. This is page 19 in your packet. And this is basically the attachment C was the approved 6-year CIP plan that was approved in November. And this is showing how the changes that we are proposing in 23 impact that plan. And you'll see that the postponed projects from that were originally scheduled in 23 have been moved forward to 2024. We have increased the cost or the project budgets of the fairgrounds projects in green. In yellow, we have added those the projects of the cabin demolition at the fairgrounds and the Point No Point Park. One item of note, you'll notice I just mentioned, and so did Aaron, that there is a phase in 2024 of the Point No Point Park. I am missing that on here. That is just an error on my part. We anticipate that cost to be about $400,000 in 2024 for that rock revetment rebuild. And that, of course, is premised on as long as we're able to utilize the beach, the phase one and phase two beach rehabilitation as the mitigation for doing the rock revetment. So there's kind of a hand-in-hand partnership of how these phases work together that we are, fingers crossed, hoping to make happen.
It even gets more complicated because I don't know, you probably heard that the Coast Guard wanted to give us the property that the lighthouse sits on. Well, they haven't done that yet. So we'll actually have to ask permission in order to do this work on their land. Yeah, so we're working through that, but more complications.
A lot of moving pieces, for sure. So that concludes really what I wanted to share with you. Excuse me, share with you. And want to know if you have any questions or comments. What I am hoping to get from you this evening, so long as you're comfortable, or we could come back with additional information. I am hoping to get a recommendation from the board on, hey, what you are proposing is makes sense. And the one caveat is calling out the funding source for the fairgrounds projects. So maybe we leave the funding component aside, but at least the display of what we're proposing in terms of adding projects, postponing projects, and the project budget increases. If the board is amenable to what's being proposed, to make a formal recommendation to the commissioners to move this to approve this proposed plan. But before we even get there, just open to additional conversation, comments, questions on this. And, one item of note, you'll notice under the subcommittee reports, this same topic exists. And that's because prior to this meeting, which was just yesterday, we met with the Parks Advisory Board Subcommittee for Capital Projects and Parks, and walked through this as well, so that they can, provide additional comments or help facilitate answers. But trying to follow the subcommittee process that is, at least for the capital projects, that's set forth in the resolution. But we're starting to follow our own procedures. Questions, comments? Go for it.
Okay.
Lisa.
I like everything that you've proposed so far, except I think we really should look into the fire department thing, even if it gives you the heebie-jeebies, because they would make sure that they'd have their pumper trucks out there with the water, blasting on anything that could burn. And, again, that's a savings of $50,000 right there. Totally. I mean, I was on the fire department. We love things like that. I love it. I'll do it.
Don't give Lisa a match. We also had a comment from Commissioner Walters this morning about reaching out to really kind of putting out another general advertisement of does anybody want the cabin? Come and get it kind of at your own expense before we move forward towards a demolition, or as you're recommending, Lisa, partnering with the fire department for a planned fire.
Well, how rotten is that wood? Because again, people would definitely, very rotten. Okay, so. Yeah, well, I mean, can the logs even be reused? So then probably nobody would want it, firewood? Could it be chopped up for firewood?
I think it's probably the same.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking.
I appreciate that. I mean, 20 years ago, I probably would have said, hey, yeah, right on.
Everything's good. But right now, I think it's too far gone, but somebody may be willing to do that, for sure.
Yeah, because you say you put it out there a while ago and maybe people didn't see that, and right now times are rough and people like to reuse things. Yeah, it's a thought.
Also, just quickly keep in mind that we've had to go through all these buildings and deal with regulated materials. There's asbestos, there's lead, there's a bunch of things. So they're getting cleaned up. That has to be cleaned up before we do anything like that.
Right.
So that's.
In the log cabin though,
There is actually.
asbestos?
There's asbestos.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, bummer.
And Aaron, I was back on the Public Facilities District when there was some moving around of that log cabin, and there was a lot of public interest in saving it, but it's there's been an awful lot of chances for somebody to save that building if they had the time and resources to do it. And from my perspective, it's time to move on, because the park staff has got an awful lot of projects.
Yes, thank you. I agree. And we have other buildings that there's a lot of pressure to save those too. So we have a lot to work through. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
I think that, we did ask a lot of questions on the revisions to the capital facilities plan, but our capital improvement plan, but I think that it sounds very well thought out. And Alex, I really appreciated the level of clarity and detail that you put into your report to us, because I'm working off of a phone. I knew I couldn't read it and participate in the meeting. So it was, I appreciate having such a thorough presentation, written presentation and then follow up. But I think that the approach that you've lined out makes a lot of sense. And, with putting some of these projects on hold, we don't have the staff to deal with it right now anyways, and to deal with the ones that are really pressing.
Thank you. There's been a lot of hard work from a lot of us that has gone into this and continues to move this forward. And not only the simple update to the capital plan, but also these projects are in motion right now, and you know, some of them, there's no slowing them down. We've got tight timelines that we're trying to get through. And Aaron over here deserves a ton of credit for keeping things moving. So appreciate it. I am hoping for a motion, yes.
I propose that as discussed through all of this, that we make a motion to accept the changes that have been necessary due to extenuating circumstances, as long as things are being followed as
So
per the
moved.
plan.
Larry Walker, so moved.
Thank you, Larry. Is that second? Okay.
So I'll second it then.
Thank you. Now we're.
Did we vote?
Motion to vote.
Sorry. Motion to vote. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nancy, is that opposed or for? It was kind of hard to tell.
Nancy, did you vote for or against? You're muted. There you are.
Sorry, that was a 4.
Okay,
working
thank
on-
you so much.
I'm working off my phone and getting to mute and unmute is being tricky tonight.
Thank you.
Understood. For the director's report, I was actually did not have any items I was highlighting and going to draw attention to. I was solely focused on really honing in on the CIP update this evening. But you do have it. If you have any questions about any of the items on there or comments, certainly open to hearing them, of course.
Are there any questions on his report? Seeing no hands, hearing no questions in-house. We'll move on. Okay, the subcommittee reports. Planning and property, is that what we just went through, or do you want to have the subcommittee speak?
If the subcommittee, the members that are here wish to speak either on the CIP or the meeting that we held yesterday, by all means. But it's your call, your floor.
I would not presume to try to co-opt on your wonderful presentation there, Alex.
I think everything that was discussed tonight's pretty much what we went over last night.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to district representatives' reports, old business. Are there any? Seeing none on the floor, I have just one, is the striping for boat trailers. It's been brought to my attention that boaters don't feel at Olalla Boat Launch Park that there's any designated areas for actual trailers that are still connected to a vehicle. And I just propose that that the powers that be go take a look at it, what was traditionally done, and maybe move forward on looking into that for the community. Is there any other old business? And did you want to respond?
Sure, I can respond. So just for everybody's understanding, historically, there was striping at the boat launch parking area. As Joanne just explained to me earlier before the meeting, in 2015, the boat launch was resurfaced right over the top, obviously, of the previous painted lines. And those painted lines have not come back since. So I wasn't aware that it was previously lined. Brian's at a conference this week. But when he gets back, we'll have a chat about that. And we have the ability to do our own line striping. We do in some of our parking lots. So that might be an easy win that we can accomplish.
Yay, I appreciate that. It would solve a small problem there because of the boating. It's a hard launch to launch unless it's slap tied anyway, but people do try.
Do they park along the strip?
Oh, they park everywhere. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Okay.
Before we adjourn, we do have if the board is amenable, there is a public comment that was not able to be had at the beginning of the meeting. It might be good to do that now before we finalize the meeting. Beverly's still with us. So okay,
Perfect.
are you
Sure.
okay with that? Okay.
Sure. Go ahead, Beverly.
Are you talking to me? Because I'm not Beverly. My name is Carol.
Okay, there's another one there too, Carol. Do you want to go with Carol?
Yeah, my apologies. I see that the note was from Carol. But hey, Beverly, if you would like to comment as well, you may.
What you got for us, Carol?
Okay, my name is Carol Price, and I appreciate this opportunity. Tonight I have a proposal regarding Port Gamble Forest Heritage Park, and I'll follow that with a question. And I made similar comments to the PGF stewards at their committee meeting on Monday, so this will be familiar to Linda. Right now, PGF HP is a wide open to mountain biking. The Ranger Trail Corridor and the Ride Park are exclusively for mountain biking. Adding in logging roads, multi-use trails, and eventually the paved STO corridor will add up to a huge area. At the same time, active logging by Rayonier will be continuing through 2040. What little native flora and fauna are left in what passes for forests are under constant assault from humans and machines. Here's a proposal. Provide a portion of the park that is greater in area than that taken up by recreation and development. Dedicate this area to conservation, restoration, and reforestation. Limit human and machine access, providing sanctuary for nature to recover from the exploitation of the last 160 years. Which brings me to my question. Who owns our county parks? And more specifically, who owns PGF HP? Rayonier and Radiant, North Kitsap Trails Association, formed over 15 years ago to promote the STO. Does the Evergreen Mountain Bike Alliance own this park? Aren't these groups stakeholders? There is a difference between stakeholders and ownership. Aren't the 275,000 residents of Kitsap County the owners of Port Gamble Forest? And shouldn't we have more say in what is going on there? Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Beverly, would you like to speak? Okay, hearing none. We have new business. Is there any new business? We covered old business. Is there any new business? Hearing none, I would like a motion for adjournment.
So
for this meeting.
moved. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you for all attending and all your input and your hard work.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good night.